Hello, and welcome to this Australia-New Zealand Women's Declaration International webinar for June 2025. I'm Janet Fraser, convener of the Feminist Legal Clinic Management Committee in Exile. I'm coming to you from Gundungurra, west of Sydney. Wherever you're coming from this evening, we pay tribute to elders past and present, and especially the women of this continent. A reminder that the presentation is recorded and question time is not. When we end for question time, I'd appreciate it if women use the Q&A box for written questions so I don't lose them in the chat. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand icon and I'll keep a running list of the order in which I see you appear. And now to introduce our excellent speakers. Stassja Frei has been a full-time TERF since reading JK Rowling's most excellent essay back in 2020. For a time, she was involved in grassroots organising, including a public forum in Hobart and a couple of direct action protests. She also co-hosted the weekly YouTube channel TERF Talk Down Under. In 2023, she turned her attention to creating the investigative podcast series Desexing Society. It's the first podcast to critically examine the transgender industry in Australia. Season 1 explores the youth gender dysphoria epidemic and how trans ideology became embedded in our children's hospitals and public schools. Season 2 just launched on the 19th of June and investigates the impact on girls and women when men are treated as female under the law. We're going to have a bit of a chat about Stassja's awesome project Desexing Society. And season 2 has just been launched. How did the launch go?
Not too bad. Getting a bit of interest. Got some really nice messages from Linda Blade. She listened to the first episode, so that was pretty exciting for me when that happened. And then Sharon Davies retweeted episode 1. I was like, yes, this is it. I'm going to get heaps more listeners. And unfortunately, that didn't happen yet. But it was nice to have that sort of acknowledgement from some really big name women who have been involved in the sports side of things. For anyone who hasn't listened, the first 2 episodes are on sport. We also had a space last Thursday. So my idea is to do a space every Thursday evening, just having a bit of a chat about the episode that came out the week before. So if you're on Twitter, come along and join us this coming Thursday.
And what was the fallout from season 1 like? Can you tell us about what season 1 had and how you went on to do season 2?
Season 1, unfortunately, has pretty much flown under the radar a fair bit. I sort of had the thought I should infiltrate some of the transgender groups and plant it in there, and that might get it a whole lot more attention. Sorry, I've forgotten what was the question exactly.
So what was the fallout from season 1, basically?
Yeah, so not a lot of response. However, that sort of left me to work peacefully on season 2 and, you know, not deal with Twitter attacks or any of that sort of thing. So very positive feedback for the most part. So that was really good. Yeah.
Did you have something in particular that you thought was really important from season 2?
I think sort of the theme running through it is ACON. ACON gets a mention in a lot of episodes, and they really are the head of the octopus here in Australia. They've got tentacles everywhere. They're influencing everything, including domestic violence services for women. It's just outrageous. Prisons was a big one. That hasn't come out yet, so I don't want to do too much of a spoiler, but, you know, learning about Noel Compton Hall, I didn't know about him until you told me about him, Janet, and okay, I'll do a tiny spoiler. So He must have been the first transgender woman in the whole world to be put into a women's prison, I'm guessing. Um, New
I
South
don't know.
Wales, yeah, I'm not sure either, but it seems like New South Wales had this sort of prototype, proto self-ID law, really. It was if you're intending to live as the opposite sex, then you're entitled to all this stuff as well. So that was pretty shocking to me learning that story. Oh, he murdered someone, everyone. This was back in the 90s. He murdered a man, and then while he's in prison, convicted for that murder, he gets transferred to a women's prison because he's decided that he's a woman. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and small spoiler, the Hansard at the time indicates that he wasn't the only man in there. He's just the only man whose name we know because he went on to be quite a saga. And you'll have to listen to the podcast for that.
Yeah, that's the other really shocking thing is they're not even tracking how many of these men have been put into women's prisons. Not in Queensland, not down here in Victoria. Whereas I'm sure that if you asked a prison guard, they would know exactly how many men are in women's prisons down here in Victoria. Because it's a very tiny population of female prisoners. It's only like, I don't know, 400 or something. So they would know for sure. But for some reason, no one's updated the database to record a person's sex accurately. I mean, surely you could have one field for gender identity and one field for sex, and then you'd know.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
you could track it, you could search it. But as we understand in Queensland, for instance, you can't track it or search it because they're not recording the men's sex, they're just recording their pretendy identity.
that's it.
Yeah,
That's pretty shocking.
yeah, it is. Um, and I mean, this is a very major undertaking, and you have done all of this yourself. What do you, I mean, I look at this huge project and I think, what have you learnt? What has changed in the world for you since you embarked on something so huge and so deep? Like, it's an amazingly deep dive into Australian society and how it's been affected by a cult that the government has imposed on us, basically. So how are you feeling about society in general? And, has your view of the world changed since you've been investigating this?
It's an interesting question. I would really need to ponder that a bit. Um, I think it's just incredible that, this industry, I don't want to call it the trans movement anymore. I'm calling it the trans industry. Um, it's just the way that it's infiltrated everything, absolutely everything. And it's been going on for decades. And this was something that Kit said, which I didn't end up using the clip, but there are people, this has been their entire careers, is working on this stuff. And they're completely indoctrinated, completely. And they're working in government departments, they're working in domestic. There's a woman who worked for Acon and then went straight from Acon to working in domestic violence services. And she brought all of her, you know, transgender views from Acon to domestic violence services. She's now is she the chair? I think she's the chair of Our Watch, which is the national peak body for domestic violence services. So it's, I think that's the really incredible thing is how they've just worked away in the background, um, and also the links to the pharmaceutical industry. It's really unfortunate, but it's all hides behind this shield of health. We're doing it for your health. It's for LGBTQIA plus health. And it's like, how do you argue with that? It's that thing that we were talking about before we went live. Um, how do you argue against the poor trans child? You're immediately the evil person for saying, no, there are no trans children because, whoa, the children. It's the same thing. They've got these shields that just sort of protect them from criticism. It's amazing.
It's astonishing, really. Do you
Yeah,
think it's possible to future-proof us against falling into a similar ideological hole again?
probably not. I don't know. Maybe there are ways to sort of seed critical thinking back into children's education. But sorry, just quickly, yes, it was Moo Balch is the woman at Domestic Violence New South Wales. Her name's Moo. Bizarre. So I just recorded episode 7, which delves into what happened at La Leche League a little bit. So this is a volunteer-run breastfeeding organization. It's international. They operate in like 80 countries. And when they founded back in, I think it was the 50s, they built into their organization that they weren't going to talk about religion. They were going to keep religion completely out of it, even though most of the founding mothers were religious women, because they knew they wanted to be able to attract as many women as possible to come and use the service. And unfortunately, even having that sort of policy in place at La Leche League didn't protect them from this ideology. They don't see it as ideology. It's just fact for them that some people's gender identities don't match their bodies. So I don't know, Janet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing to think about. And as you've progressed into season 2, and we might make this our last question, I think, have you got any more insight into what we should be doing? What should we do?
Oh dear. I really encourage everyone to, send the emails, make the phone call, um, write the tweet. It would really help me a lot personally if people could comment with links and quote tweet me. I appreciate the retweets, but quote tweets where you say what stood out to you, that helps get the message across. Yeah, I think the UK women have done a really good job of sort of picking a niche and focusing on the niche. And I'm not sure that we've done that as effectively here in Australia. So it's like if your niche is domestic violence services, get stuck into it. Um, for example, if your niche is prisons, get stuck into it. I mean, what was the organization they had in the UK for prisons? Was it Keep Prison Single
CEDAW?
Sex?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And we sort of had a version of that here in Australia, but it was WA based. And yeah, that's another big challenge here in Australia is we don't just have the federal government to go after. We've got all the states and territories as well. So
Local government too.
and local government.
3 levels of government that have all been captured.
Yeah. So I think it's something like that, like developing the niches and really targeting those niches and going after them. Actually, that was an idea I had the other day was it- just putting a tweet up of, well, what are the dot points of the things that would really create change here? And, things like, well, challenging New South Wales Health. Why are you throwing all millions and millions of dollars at ACON? Why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. AIDS prevention and treatment is absolutely something New South Wales Health could do themselves, you know? So maybe that's another thing, is working out what our priorities are and just going for it, spending a whole year just targeting New South Wales Health, for example. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And of course, you'll be available to answer questions on the previous season and the coming season. I have listened to the first 3 episodes, and I'm here to tell you I love it. It's wonderful. I'm in an episode. So if you like what I do, you can hear me in an episode coming up in July, I believe. And yeah, there's a number of interviewees on each episode, and Stassja really joins the dots and pulls information together and presents it to you in a way that makes it very understandable, even though what you think you're listening to is completely insane. So thank you, Stassja. Thank you for your contribution to the movement, and thank you for speaking tonight.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Anna, as well.